Welcome to Dulcimoon Talks.
Where music, connection, and inspiration meet.
I'm DJ Hamoris.
And I'm Erin May Lewis.
Together, we're your hosts for these beautiful conversations that celebrate the vibrant women of the dulcimer community.
Since June of 2022, Dulcimoon Talks have brought you into the lives and stories of extraordinary women, leaders, teachers, producers, and artists who are shaping and sharing the art of the dulcimer in unique ways.
Our guests come from all walks of life. Many balance their passion for dulcimers with careers far outside the music world. Yet they all share one thing: a deep love for the dulcimer and the joy it brings to teaching, practicing, performing, and creating.
Each episode is an intimate journey exploring personal musical paths, sources of inspiration, and the beautiful ways dulcimers weave into our lives. Think of it as the kind of meaningful conversation you'd have while sharing a meal at a festival. A mix of insight, laughter, and heartfelt connection.
Whether you're a long-time dulcimer enthusiast or just curious about this amazing world, Dulcimoon Talks are here to inspire, inform, and delight.
We release new talks twice monthly and are thrilled to have you on this journey with us. Make sure to subscribe and join the growing community as we honor the magic of dulcimers and the people who make them sing.
Dulcimoon Talks, sharing stories,
Celebrating connections,
keeping the music alive.
Welcome to Dulcimoon Talk number 62. Before we start the interview, I just want to remind you that we are near the end of the Dulcimoon Summer Fundraiser campaign. As of this morning, 184 of you have contributed over $3,800 to our summer fundraiser. Thank you! That's amazing! To wrap up the final day of the fundraiser on Monday, September 1st, we are going to have an end of summer community jam. It'll be in the evening. That is Labor Day, but you will be home from all of your fun adventures, and you can sit down at your computer with us and join in some music making and sharing together. And we are excited to have some kids from the Youth Dulcimer Club who will be also joining in that jam and helping lead some of their favorite songs from the summer jam book. So join us for that. DJ will be putting some links in the comments here, and I think the link is in the bio information here on YouTube too. Okay, enough of that. Hi, I'm Erin May, and today I am so excited to be joined by Carol Walker. Hi, Carol.
Good morning. Good morning.
So great to have you today. Remind me, where do you live?
I live in Denville, New Jersey, which is about 40 miles due west of New York City. I can see New York City from a little mountain that's within hiking distance from my house. Yes.
Aww.
But here it's beautiful and green with lakes and ponds and bears and all kinds of things out there. You wouldn't think about that in New Jersey, but yeah, it's very, very countrified here. It's good.
It's very sweet. Well, we love to just kind of go back in time to the earliest musical memories and sort of developmental places in your life that made you into the musician you are today. So where did the musical drive start for you, Carol?
Well, I have to give full credit to my father, who was also a musician, more than I ever realized as a little kid. He played bassoon in the Army band, and he could play piano, and he could sing. But my earliest memory of music in the house, first of all, he was always playing records. I remember waking up and hearing opera or classical stuff all the time. My sister, who was 6 years older than me, was taking piano lessons from the neighborhood lady. And the song du jour in 1949 was Tennessee Waltz, which had been made famous by Patti Page. And she was practicing that for her lesson. One day, I became aware of it, and I just kind of toddled into the living room. And when she was done practicing, I reached up to the keyboard. And somehow, to this day, I don't know how, it was just... I have to call it a gift. I was able to pick out the exact same notes that she had just been playing. Just the melody, hunt and peck kind of thing. my sister came running into the room and said, "Carol, stop that." And my father came running into the room and said, "Carol, what are you doing? That's great."
Right.
But he had very strong feelings about me not learning how to play by ear. He wanted me to be able to read music. And so at the age of 4, he found a piano teacher for me, a different one from the one my sister was using. Probably more to please my sister than anything else. But and I remember sitting on that bench, couldn't reach the pedals, she was showing me the fingering for the scales, and then she gave me my very own little piano book, and we wrote down the date each day that I would complete a piece and move on to the next one. I still have that book in my piano bench. And it's just amazing to know that I was able to learn how to read music before I could spell my name. In those days, they didn't start teaching kids to read and write until first grade. And I was not even in kindergarten yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, music is my first language. And English.
I had kind of a similar, like, we got piano lessons when we were really young. I don't remember learning to read music because it was just, I was learning to read music at the same time I was learning to read. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, being able to read music is awesome. And I get a lot of work now as a piano accompanist. If a choir director's accompanist has come down with COVID or something, they call me because they know I can read anything,
you
whether
can
I
read.
played it or not.
Yeah.
But then when I got into folk music with dulcimer, it was kind of a disadvantage. I still get teased by Steve Seifert and others who say that I'm very well paper trained because if I couldn't read the melody on the tab, I could never learn it. I had one private lesson with Steve Seifert in the early days. He probably doesn't even remember it. I happened to be in my RV with my husband in Tennessee, and I thought, hey, I think he lives near here. And so he came aboard the RV, and he was trying to teach me the melody to Whiskey Before Breakfast, all by rote, and it was not computing. So he ran back into his apartment, and he came out with a piece of paper and said, "Oh, okay, now I can play this." It had the standard notation and the tab on it. From there, I was fine. So that's been my main way of learning new dulcimer music. I still don't learn very well by ear. And if somebody, we're going around the circle at the jam and somebody will say, "Take a solo." Not me. I can't improvise that. Some people can. I can't. Some people can read. I can. And others can't. So in my case, it was kind of an either or type of thing. But folk music has helped me get over that after
I was gonna
having played this
say,
instrument for a while.
do you ever wonder what would have happened if you would have had more, I guess, cultivation of that ear, since you seem to have a natural knack of it when you were really
That's
young?
a good question. I honestly haven't contemplated that because I've always been zeroed in on reading stuff. But and that has led me to down a career path that I can't imagine being any different than what it is.
Sure.
And in order to do what I'm doing, I have to be able to read. But who knows what might have opened up. What I have thought about is what would have happened if my father hadn't been home that day and never heard me play.
Wow, yeah.
That was a one-off. He worked nights, and so he was home during the day but often slept.
Yeah.
That morning he was up and heard what I did, and what would I have done, without that? I'd still be a long-distance telephone operator or something. I don't know.
It is kind of crazy to contemplate sometimes I think people call them like the turning door or something. Like what would have happened if that door didn't turn in that moment? Yeah.
Other doors would have opened, I'm sure, but I can't imagine anything better than what I'm currently doing. Still, in my 80th year, I'm still doing what I love.
That's
And
so
look
good.
forward to another 20 more. I'm going to be like George Burns. I'm going to still be performing on my 100th birthday. So make a note of that.
I believe in it for you, for sure. So I know that you had a career as a music educator, right?
Yes, I did. I
So
taught.
you studied music in college and was piano your main
Yeah,
instrument?
I was an education major,
Okay.
and got my license to teach.
Mhm.
In New Jersey, a music certificate entitles you to teach any type of music. So if I wanted to be a band director, it's the same certificate. If I want to be a choir director, it's the same. If I want to just teach elementary music ed, education classes,
Mhm.
it's all the same. And I had to declare a major. Most education majors declare piano because we use it in the classroom all the time. And because I was going to focus on teaching choral music, I minored in voice, but I also minored in harp because I had the opportunity to study with a world-class harpist who happened to be on the faculty at the time. And she took me on as a secondary minor. And so that branched out. My piano professor wasn't happy about that. He wanted me to focus more on piano. But for my senior recital, I did both piano and harp. And then started getting gigs with orchestras playing harp. So that was
Wow.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Did that did that spark some of the Celtic music love, or did that come later too?
No, the Celtic thing came along, well, kind of connected to harp, because I had a book that I had purchased from David Marks, who used to own Folkcraft when it was still in Connecticut. And I found this book in his shop called Manx Music for the Irish Harp by Charles Gard, who was a
Okay.
Manxman, still alive, still doing wonderful things on the Isle of Man. And I started learning his tunes, or his arrangements. These were all Manx traditional tunes, all of which had their origins in Celtic music. And when I had the opportunity to teach a dulcimer workshop for the first time, I thought maybe I'll teach some Manx tunes if it works, And I was just not even really doing much arranging at the time. So I wrote to Charles Gard and I said, "Do you mind if I use some of your arrangements as the foundation for my dulcimer music?"
Yeah.
And he wrote back and said, "Sure, but what's a dulcimer?"
Aw. Yeah.
They had not ever heard of a mountain dulcimer before. They did know about hammered dulcimers. So he said, "By the way, those are all traditional tunes. Those are in the public domain, and you can add your own chords. You can do anything you want to with it." It so happened that my husband would tour. He's a guitarist, and he would tour in the UK once a year. And I was able to go with him after I retired from teaching, which was great. And we arranged to meet Charles Gard in his home. And he played his harp for me, and he shared all kinds of information and sent me down to the Manx Museum, where I was able to gather more research that I took home with me, and then created the very first Manx book. Sent him, I went back the following year, brought 50 copies of the book and the CD, which he put in his shops, and I gave him one of my dulcimers. Taught him how to play.
Oh, cool.
He then donated it to the Manx Heritage Foundation, and my understanding is that it's made rounds with various young people, especially, who wanted to learn how to play it. And now my contacts there tell me that there are quite a few dulcimer players on the Isle of Man. So, yeah.
Oh, that's
And
very
I was
cool.
planning to go back in 2020. I had everything all set and a place to stay in the summer of 2020. Obviously, that never happened, and I just haven't had the opportunity since. But so yeah, that's the Manx and harp Celtic connection, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
You just
That's
never know.
another kind of turning door thing. You went to a school
Exactly.
that had the harp teacher at the moment that led you that in that direction.
Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
So
And
when did
also, I
the
guess at the same time, there's a group here known as Wayfarers Company. They're based in Pennsylvania, which is only about 40 miles west of here. And these same people also I knew from Dulcimer World because they were all at that same Housatonic festival that I went to the first time. And they invited me to play in their group called Wayfarers and Company, first as a harpist and then as a dulcimist. And then not too long after I joined them, we were together 15 years, put out a couple of CDs, and it was a great relationship until everybody kind of had to go their own way. but eventually I ended up playing upright bass. So I taught myself how to play upright bass by playing just boom, 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 and then taking a couple of lessons from a college professor. So, yeah, so you just never know. There's always another door waiting to open, and you have no idea where it is or what it might lead to. But it's there.
Sometimes I think creative people who you look at and you go, wow, you've done so many different things in your life. They're just the people who say yes when someone says, hey, would you ever consider? And then those creative people are like, I guess, I don't know, what is there to lose? Sure, I'll try that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, since I retired, which is now almost 20 years ago from teaching, I loved my job. I loved it. I did it for 32 years.
And that was high school choral music?
That was, well, no, it was all grades.
All grades.
Every day I traveled to at least 2 different schools. Not what I would have chosen for myself, but it ended up being okay. But I did love the high school kids the best. I really did. So after I retired from that, and I've known other teachers who've retired and they sit around and say they don't know what to do next. But the beautiful thing about being a musician is there's always something to do next. You know, I could play church organ, which I did for years. I could go back to that. I played in pits for local community theaters. I was a music director for community theaters. And then, of course, all the folk music I was doing. And then after I wrote my first dulcimer book, there was a whole nother direction that opened up. And you just never know. Oh, and then I married a guy who's a blues guitarist. So now I had to switch from bluegrass type to more jazzy stuff. I did that for a few years and traveled as his roadie and and backup bass. Yeah. So, yeah, lots of opportunities since retirement, really.
Yeah.
And more to come.
So when did the dulcimer come into your path?
I first learned about it on a trip to Maine, of all places. There used to be a beautiful shop up in Bar Harbor called Song of the Sea, I think it was. And I went there first because they had folk harps. But then I also saw that they had dulcimers, and I'd always kind of been curious about it. They had little kits that you could buy, but I never did. I was more focused on the harp at the time, and I thought it might maybe someday, you know. Well, then that little shop closed, and somewhere along the line, I took a vacation trip with a girlfriend to Berea, Kentucky, mostly to see the weaving. But we discovered that there was a dulcimer maker there, Warren May. And I went to his shop, and he was so kind. This would have been 1998 or thereabouts, maybe earlier, 95. I'd have to look that up again. And he laid out all these dulcimers. And my girlfriend, she says, oh, come on, Carol, you've got the cash, just buy it. You know, just do it. So, okay, I came home with my very first Warren May dulcimer, and then I had to figure out how to play it, because the book he gave me wasn't the greatest. And I didn't mention that I took classical guitar lessons along the way also in college. None of that helped with the dulcimer.
Steve Gilberg always says, I knew how to play all of these other instruments. I got a dulcimer and there was no music in it. It didn't work.
It's true. And it took me a little while to get used to that. First of all, I was missing those frets because I'd been used to the guitar. And the dulcimer I bought was tuned to DAA, but the book that he gave me, and I won't mention who it was, it's probably not even in print anymore anyway, it gave me songs, and again, because I was a musician, I knew what the key signatures were.
Right.
But for some reason, that wasn't matching up with the tablature that was underneath. And finally, I don't even know where that was. I had a breakthrough at some point when I was just noodling on my own. And when I looked at this thing and I thought, maybe if I pretend this is a piano keyboard, at least with the left hand, that'll make it a little bit easier to figure out where to put my fingers. And of course, by then I had better tab and better books. So when I decided to write a book, one of the first ones I did was an instructional book for people who know nothing or who know too much. you know?
Isn't that interesting that it's both nothing or have this whole world of musical knowledge and then trying to figure out how that fits into this folk
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
thing that has such a different culture and traditions underneath of it?
Definitely. Yeah, I had no clue. And I certainly didn't know the repertoire. I did not know a single fiddle tune. I didn't even really know what they were. But should have pulled it out. It's that great big yellow book that's all the fiddle tunes in the world. You've probably seen that.
Like the Fiddler's Fake Book?
That's the one. And
Yeah.
so I saw that at a festival.
That's
and
the Fiddle Tune
bought it,
Bible right there.
and I came home with it. Well, it doesn't have tab in it, but that was okay because I could read standard notation, and by then I had figured out what note goes where. That certainly helped. And by the way, I'm encouraging all my students to learn standard notation for that reason, because then you can do anything. You know, a lot of people, one of my beginning students would come and say, I'd say, okay, play me a D chord. And he'd say, you mean 002? You know, they had no concept of what those numbers translated to in standard notation. So I wrote one of my first dulcimer books with that in mind. I wanted to be sure that everybody saw both. Everything is always on the page there, whether they look at it or not. But it does help. That was another thing that bothered me, and only dulcimer players will understand this. The notes going up and coming back down again. The tablatures going down and coming back up. It was upside down from ukulele or banjo or guitar.
It is upside down. Yep.
The brain went. Okay. So,
I struggle because I did dulcimer tab first, and now every other kind of tablature feels upside down and backwards to me. And I'm like, I know that mine's the one that's backwards, but
it's funny, you know, the
Yeah.
things that come along the way that'll just, you know, those roadblocks. But that was part of the fun too. I felt challenged, even with a degree in music and lots and lots and lots of experience. I've written choral pieces and, you know, nothing serious, but just stuff for my choir, my church choir or whatever. And yet I couldn't do anything with this for a long time. It took me a couple of years before I even wanted to put myself into it to that degree that I could come up with something I liked and that was meaningful.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but now,
Yeah, I remember we were kind of chatting a little bit before we pressed go live, and I was remembering, I think the first time we met in person was at the Melodies and Musings Festival in Alabama, several years ago. I don't know.
yeah,
And you were telling me how much you love writing books
I do.
and putting together that material. So what was the spark for that? Did that start with your choral music and like writing choral music, or tell me more
I
about
have
that?
to say no. The choral music, well, one thing I did learn from writing choral music is what we call voice leading, what makes a good harmony line that could
Right.
stand alone instead of, you know, all over the place. My school district gave me one of the earliest versions of Finale, and
Wow.
also taught all of us
Yeah.
how to use it on
Yeah.
our old Big Macs, right? And we just kept upgrading it. And so when I retired and I wanted to start writing my own tab, I figured out how to make Finale do that.
Yeah.
It didn't want to, but I figured
Right.
it out, you know. And every time I would write something, I'd learn something new about this quirky program. Now, unfortunately, Finale is kaput, and I have vowed that this computer I'm currently working will never be upgraded because
That
I
would
will
be-
lose everything.
Yeah.
So that's another story. I don't want to get into that. But yeah, it just so I guess I applied what I already knew about good choral writing to my arrangements. I wanted to make the middle string sound as beautiful as the melody string. And the bass string, as a bass player, I knew how important it was to give the bass player something to do besides just boom, 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 you know.
Yeah.
So it just kind of evolved. And the first tab that I wrote them out by hand initially because I had plenty of examples. I loved Steve Seifert's jam book. I had books by Tull Glazer. I loved his arrangements. And so I was writing things out by hand just to try them out and teach them. And then when I thought, maybe I can get Finale to do what I need it to do. I've never looked back. I've got 12 books sitting here on my desk right now, and one more will be released in January. Another Dulcimer orchestra book will come out at some point in the future. I'm making arrangements every day. It's what I love to do. I don't know why.
That's your happy place, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can do that even during COVID. I wrote 5 books during COVID. Without guilt. Yeah, I didn't have to worry about going anyplace. I didn't even want to go out of my house to walk. So I just stayed home and wrote books, yeah.
Wow.
So it's all good.
Yeah. So I write down tab constantly and never make books out of it. So I need to get some lessons from you about how to take the thing that I'm starting to create and make it into something that's cohesive in the end, because that's where I get bogged down. And I think, I love teaching very, very much. And I've had so much experience now teaching different kinds of learners that I think it's impossible to put every kind of learning style into a book. And then I'm just like, well, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm really grateful for people like you who manage to put it down into books. And
well, my style is how I play. I play chords with these fingers. I like to finger pick almost all the time. So what I write, that's my signature, okay? But the arrangements, the books themselves each have a theme. I had that whole DNA Dulcimer Ditty series, which I give credit to Sam Edelston for that title. He asked me to teach a workshop. He's a wordsmith. And he said, teach a workshop called DNA Dulcimer Ditties. It's not some weird tuning, but rather it's songs you've known your whole life and they're part of your DNA. So I went back to the old nursery rhyme songs for book 1, and then I continued all the way up through a very advanced book that I would even have to practice today if I wanted to perform any of them. And that became the foundational series, like the old John Thompson or John Schaum or Maxwell Eckstein piano series that probably all of us had at some point. Then I got
really
the Manx
methodology.
Yeah, exactly. Basil series, they call it in school. And I got the Manx theme, and then I did 2 Winnie the Pooh books. There's going to be a 3rd one coming out eventually. And then I started writing the Dulcimer orchestra books. This was fun. I love writing these arrangements. This was the first one. This is the second one, and the 3rd one is still up in my brain. This is 220 pages.
That's crazy.
It's epic, okay? And there's still more,
That's amazing. How did you get started doing the Dulcimer orchestra?
Oh, I just always loved playing in ensembles.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, they made me take lessons on the clarinet or the flute.
Okay.
Or if I had been a boy, I would have had a trumpet. You know how it was in those early days. No, you're much too young. You don't know that. But
I didn't directly experience it, but I'm aware of those stereotypes. Yes.
Girls took clarinet and flute, boys took trumpet, and they didn't do drums.
I did percussion, so I was an oddball girl, but I did mallet percussion because I played piano, and so I could already use the notes, and none of the boys who were percussionists wanted to learn how to read.
I know.
They didn't want to play those girly bells.
I know, yeah.
Even that was still there.
Well, my daddy bought me a clarinet, and I hated practicing it. I could only get one note at a time, and it squeaked. So all through 4th grade, I struggled. But then in 5th grade, we got to be in band. Oh, boy. And then in 7th grade, I got to switch to bass clarinet. I loved the sound of it. And there was only one bass clarinet in the band. So it got more and more special the more I got to play in an ensemble. I've always loved that.
Yeah.
In high school, I took up cello and joined the orchestra. I was doing nothing but music. I had to take English. But the rest of my senior year was all music, So then it just became natural for me to take some of my favorite classical pieces out of the classical book and take the original scores, which are all online now. It's a lot easier. I can, if I want to arrange William Tell Overture for Dulcimer Orchestra, I can get the original score online for free because it's in the public domain. And because I read standard notation, and I can transpose a part if I need to, then I just write it out for Dulcimer, and it's done. And that's just flowing out of me now. It really is. I'm having so much fun. And I have my own dulcimer orchestra who gets to play it.
Yay!
Or who has to play it when I show up. No, they're great.
How many are in your local orchestra?
We have 20, and most of them are in New York State. Yeah, I'm only maybe 20 miles from the New York border, and I've been going up to that Albany festival ever since, since the 90s. And so there's a lot of really good dulcimer players all over New York State. So we meet in the middle. I travel up to New Paltz once a month, and we have live rehearsals, and we meet on Zoom, and they buy my books. They've got some of Ellen's music and some of Judy House's music as well. So it's been great.
It's really cool. I will say that things like the First National Dulcimer Orchestra and people getting involved in dulcimer orchestra and reading the parts and things has done things like taught my students how to play with a metronome, which they were not learning from me because I have a real love-hate relationship with the metronome. And I was like, no, don't do that. That's going to make you hate music, But it's like finding the right context in which using the metronome helps you a lot, which it does if you're playing multiple parts.
And you have to be able to count. And that's something most dulcimer players who are just noodling around have never given thought to.
Not focusing.
And many of them have a lot of trouble doing it. It's something I work the most on with almost all of my students or players. But now we've been together for 3.5 years, and we brought in a new member here and there. Some of them are musical. They've had experience teaching as I did, but most of them are just people who enjoyed getting together and playing in a group, and then we made it more structured by reading from specific parts. So I've got a whole symphony orchestra in there. It's really great.
I love it. So you were telling me you got a new dulcimer, and your new dulcimer has the whole orchestra inside of it. Show it off.
Does. Yeah. I just picked this up a couple of weeks ago. I went to the Folkcraft shop in Woodburn, Indiana, where Richard Ashe is the owner and builder. This is what he calls the Max Dad, M-A-X, capital D, capital A, capital D, because it has D-A-D-A-D. And the cool thing about it was, and I bought this specifically to be able to take just one instrument to dulcimer orchestra. So if I want to play bass, and as the conductor, sometimes I have to play while I'm conducting because maybe somebody's missing who plays that part. So again, I can read and I can jump in. So I might be playing the bass one day, and it's already tuned D-A-D. Most of the time I'll be playing standard. And because almost everything we do in the orchestra is finger-picked, this works very well. So I don't have to strum across all the strings, although that sounds nice. We hardly ever use picks in orchestra. I like to do it all with my fingers. But the middle strings can be the baritone, tuned either A-D-A, or I can just retune up at the top. It takes me 30 seconds, if that, and then I have A-E-A. So I can take one instrument and play everything in this book. Everything.
That's pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah, definitely. So I've been showing this. I taught the Findo rehearsal last night and reminded them again that I'm using my fancy Max Dad. It's called a 5-string also, but it just, and it's not just for orchestra. It has a lot of nice other things that it can do. And I thought maybe someday
I got to try one out, and as a largely flat picking fiddle tunes kind of player, I was like, first, I have no idea what to do with this. Second, 2 octaves across the strings. There's so much possibility in that little box.
I know. And the resonance, it's just so gorgeous. And this is a new design. This is, if you look at it closely, they're like a blueberry vine that I think the husband of one of his employees designed this, and he implemented it. One of my students also bought this same design. And
it's really fun because it doesn't really look like it has sound holes.
It does, though. They're
and
little tiny
yet
sound
that
holes.
Border is the sound holes, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of instruments. In fact, I'm one of his endorsing artists, so I'm always talking about how wonderful they are. This one happens to be walnut, and back and sides, and the top is butternut, and that's my favorite combination.
Walnut and butternut.
I think almost all of my Folkcraft instruments are using that combination. So yeah, so that's my new toy.
Well, do you want to play something on it?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. Yes, I
We've got to
would.
hear it, Carol.
I know. Let me just get organized here.
Sure, yeah.
I'm set up in the smallest room in the house here. This is my train room. Among other things, my father was also a locomotive engineer. And so all of the paraphernalia you see in the background there came from him. Oh, and there's my cat thinking he wants to come in. So I don't have my overhead cam, but I think
That's fine, yeah.
I think I can make this work if I do this. So I did make an arrangement of simple gifts specifically for the 5-string because it shows off all the things. It's full range. So that's what I'm going to play for you now. And thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And there you have it. It's like when you MC Quarantune. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll probably play that for the next Quarantune coming up.
Yeah, right. Quarantine registration opens on Sunday.
That's true.
Here we go. It's time for
Definitely.
another one. Great. Oh, thank you so much, Carol.
Well, thank
As
you.
you were playing, I was thinking about one of my favorite things about the online dulcimer community is how much more it's allowing us to sort of specialize in things in different ways.
Mhm.
And the the fact that you kind of have a specialization in like reading music and reading scores and translating those scores into dulcimer music and helping people really understand like the written notation behind everything that's happening on our instruments. That's such an area of expertise that a lot of players don't have as much. And so
Mhm.
to be able to say to a student, like, if you really want to get into learning and understanding notes, go to Carol Walker and like grab these books because they're really great resources, rather than being completely reliant upon like whichever teacher lives near you is the
Mhm.
one that
Yeah.
you have to learn from. So
That was one good thing that came out of COVID. The fact that we
right.
all now have an international presence
Yeah,
thanks to our computers and
right.
Skype or Zoom or whatever platform we're using. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah. It's very cool. So thank you for being in the world and for letting that music just flow out of you and
Um,
continuing to write it down and to share it with us in the
Thank you,
community.
Erin.
And
This has
yeah,
been a real joy to be able to share with you and your listeners, and I appreciate the opportunity so much.
awesome. And your website is Carol Walker Lady,
MusicLadyCarol.com.
Music Lady Carol.
Yep. Lots of good
Okay.
stuff on there.
Excellent. Well,
All
everybody go
right.
check out Music Lady Carol. Buy 1 or 2 or 12 of Carol's books.
Also available digitally, too. So thank
Excellent.
you, thank you, thank you.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Okay. Success.
Thank you.